Hi, this is John Mills, and this is a demonstration of tablet computing, kind of where it came from and the current tablets on the market today. We'll talk about the iPad, the Samsung Galaxy Tab, and the BlackBerry Playbook. To start off, tablet computing kind of started around 2000, 2001 with slate tablets. It was an evolution of the laptop. The laptop was as mobile as you could get with full computing, and they tried to make it more mobile by coming out with these slate tablets. This is one of them that was produced around 2003, 2004 by Motion Computing. It's the LE1600. You'll notice it's just like a laptop, has a dock that makes it look like a laptop, screen swivels like a laptop, has all the inputs of a laptop, has a USB connector, has an RGB connector for an extended monitor, has an RJ45 connector for a network. All that stuff, only difference is the screen comes off and it's like it's a tablet. So there were three problems with this. The three problems are input capabilities, weight was the second problem, and battery life was the final problem. Input, it used this active digitizer pen, so it wasn't touch. You actually used this pen, and the pen allowed you to then touch things on the screen to input. Problem is, Microsoft and their OS had a little keyboard that would come out that the digitizer could use to type, but you couldn't use that for really any business usage, any word processing. Too hard to input data. And the digitizer was hard to use, just difficult to input information. The second problem is the weight. It weighs about 3.5 pounds. You add the extended battery, it's about 4.5 pounds. It's just too heavy. And then the third issue is battery life. You needed that extended battery because without it, the thing only lasted about an hour and a half. The extended battery gave it about 3.5 hours, but even that for a mobile device was just not enough time. It just died too quickly. So because of that, these things never really proliferated. They never really took off, the slate tablets. Then come around 2009, and then they actually came out in 2010, Apple came out with the iPad. Now, the iPad was revolutionary because they didn't try to like solve all world hunger with this thing. They just wanted to make a media tablet that then you could then use to get on the internet and to read and listen to your media. Just that. It wasn't intended to be a word processing device, not intended to act like a desktop or a laptop, and therefore this succeeded where the slate tablets failed. So you could, the cool thing about it was it's very mobile, it's very light, weighs about 1.5 pounds. The iPad 1, iPad 2 weighs about a little over 1.33 pounds. Very light. So you got rid of that weight problem. The battery, instead of lasting 1.5 hours to 3.5 hours, has an up to 10-hour battery. So now you had more time to use it. And then the input was better. If you needed to type, now you get this keyboard at the bottom and it's all touch-centric. So you didn't need an active digitizer pen. You could touch, and touch made input much easier. So it solved all three of those problems. There are now innovations that have come out with tablets that have now made it so that the iPad, certain things about the iPad are considered, issues. But if you're just using it as a media tablet, it's still awesome. But those things are flash support. So if you try to go to a site that's all flash, I have a site that I've created, millslife.com. You try to go there, does nothing, just a blank screen, because this thing doesn't support Adobe Flash, which 98% of desktops and laptops have on them, and over 30% of websites have Flash. This isn't going to support those websites on this device. So that's kind of somewhat of a problem. Sites like Salesforce use Flash. So those particular things with regard to Salesforce you're not going to be able to do. Particularly in Salesforce, content previewing is all Flash based. So whether you're in Chatter or you're in directly within content, if you're trying to preview any content, you're going to get limited usage and or failure on an iPad device. So that, I'm trying to get to one so I can kind of show you that in action. So I found a particular piece of content. Okay, let me click on it for preview, and then the this HTML-based jQuery applet comes up, and you'll see it said at the bottom that full preview isn't supported on this device. That's because full preview of content in Salesforce is a Flash item, and they don't support Flash. So in order to view this file, I'd have to download it to this device, which takes me into the next issue kind of with the iPad is there's no centralized file system. So meaning you can't have one file listed in one place and have multiple applications have the ability to access that file. And if you want to upload a file, since there's no centralized file system, if I try to upload a file to Salesforce or to any site that has upload capability, I'm going to get that error. File uploaded and supported, because there's no centralized file system. I can't upload the file. And if I go to these document softwares where I can use those files, each document software on the iPad has its own file manager. So it has files there in this one. If I go to another software, it has its own file system with its own files. And the two don't share the same file system. So if I wanted to open a file from this application, a Word doc in this app, or a PDF that I have in this file system for this app, in a different app, I'd have to copy it over there somehow, and then I have that file redundantly stored twice on this system just because there's no central file management. So those are the kind of issues with it. But again, it was an ingenious, innovative device for media, for media usage. It wasn't trying to solve for all those desktop things, but now that innovation's kind of evolved, folks kind of want those things. The iPad doesn't solve for them. So that's the iPad. The next device that came out right around April of 2011 is the BlackBerry Playbook. It tried to solve for those things that the iPad didn't solve for. So this thing has Flash support. You go to a website that supports Flash, you'll see that Flash content. It has a centralized file management system, so if you try to upload a file from a website, it'll work. And if you have multiple softwares that can view the same type of file, you'll be able to open them centrally. So this solves for all that stuff, and its aesthetics and the way it works is just easy, and it's really cool. Browsing through the apps you have is easy. It has a central area where you can see what's open on your device, and you can go to them or close them. It's got an easy way to swipe to get to all your system settings. It's just a very easy to use device. Problems with it. The iPad has a 10-hour battery. You get about 9 to 8 hours out of that battery, truly. This says it has a 10-hour battery, but it really only lasts about 5 hours. And that is a little bit of an issue for me. I don't really like that. Second thing is, it's smaller than the iPad. If you kind of look at the iPad, you know, the Galaxy Tab has a 4-inch diagonal screen. iPad has a 9.7-inch diagonal screen. So it's a little bit smaller. A lot of folks might like that, actually, that smaller form factor. It seems like it is easier to like type. If you were like, let's go to like a browser, and you know, if I had to type something, let's go somewhere so we can get the keyboard to come up. If I had to type something, not where I wanted to go. If I had to type something, keyboard comes up. It's smaller, so your fingers can get to those keys better. So you can, it's easier to get to those keys. So typing's better on this thing than on the iPad. iPad's a little wider, so it's hard to get to the keyboard, and the iPad has no keyboard that kind of breaks up the keys so that you're in this thumb usage. So typing a little easier on this than on the iPad. But I'm just not a fan of the form factor. I don't really like this size. If you're in an enterprise where you already have BlackBerry phones, this is probably a great thing because it also has integration with the phone. So if a call comes into your phone, it'll show up on this screen. Or if you want to look at messages or tasks that you have coming up that are on your phone, there's integration so that you could see your phone information on this device because it's tethered. Or if you wanted to just have one internet, account, you're paying for the internet through just your phone, you can tether this to your phone, and then you have internet usage through this that's actually coming from the phone. So there's all these interactions with this. So like for enterprises, companies that already have BlackBerry embedded in them, this might be a good choice to kind of look at if you can deal with the smaller form factor. If you're okay with the smaller form factor. If you're not, then not. But it's a very usable thing. The battery life's a little bit of a problem. I don't really like the form factor, but for enterprise, it's probably a cool thing to look at. The last one I'll look at is the Samsung Galaxy Tab. Now, this one tried to solve for those iPad issues as well, or questionable items as well, which is Flash support. So if I go to a browser in the Galaxy tab, and I go to my Mills Life website, let's go there, it'll load. And on this device, you can see my Mills Life site. And you can interact with it. All the Flash graphics work. You can click and get it to do the graphical stuff that whatever you've built or whatever the site has for Flash, all works. So it has the Flash support just like the Playbook adds that Flash support. It also adds file management, a file manager, centralized file management, which the iPad didn't have. So if you need to upload a file from the Galaxy tab, it'll allow me to choose a file. And I can say from where I want to choose it. I want to choose it from my file manager. And now I have my file manager, and I can go into any folder I have, or I can change the view of my folders and go into a folder and find the file I want. Also, if I have a file that's listed in the file manager that can be opened in multiple applications, it only has to be on here once, and I can go into any of those applications and open that file, differing from the iPad. So that centralized file management is pretty good. The Flash support is cool. Also, these widgets that sit on the home screen, I don't know if you can really see them, but I can see like my business email. I have a widget here for my personal email. Kind of hard to see, can't really see. But I have these widgets for different things so that I don't have to actually drill into an icon to open something up to see what's going on with those particular apps. I can see them within these dashboards right on the main screens. I have these dashboards here for all my social networking applications. Again, difficult to see because of the lighting, but these are my Facebook app, my Twitter app, I have a Chatter app, and those applications I can see what statuses are happening right within them without actually drilling into the applications. Or I can then drill into them and I'll be right within them and see all the details of what's happening in Twitter or Facebook or what have you. So the dashboard's really useful. Also, it was built for a form factor in this landscape mode. Whereas the iPad, I'll kind of show you, was built primarily for more of this portrait mode, which is why the dock connector's on the bottom. They were thinking more media tablet. If I went into my Kindle software, which I have on all my devices, and I was reading a book, this form factor is perfect, right, for reading a book. They were kind of thinking that, and they were thinking it was going to be docked like this. Whereas the dock on the Galaxy Tab is lengthwise on the bottom in this landscape mode. They're thinking more you're going to have some way to dock it, and you're going to have it like this, right? And because of that, they also add mouse support. So you can have a Bluetooth mouse and use that right with this thing like a laptop. Can't do that with the iPad. There's no mouse support unless you jailbreak it and do things that are against Apple's policies. But standardly, you can't do mouse support, but you can do that on a Galaxy Tab. Also, on the Galaxy Tab, it has like a system tray down here, which shows you like what emails are coming in and what the time is, battery life, all in the system tray. So you get all your notifications in an area that you will always see on the screen. And that's similar to a standard Windows system where they have the system tray down at the bottom. Whereas in the iPad, there is no system tray. You have to kind of look at the icons to see if there's any notifications. And if those icons don't happen to be on the screen you're on, like for example, there's my mail icon, says there's one email. If that doesn't happen to be on the screen I'm on, I'm not going to see that that's happening. There's no common location for notifications. So again, the Galaxy Tab kind of meant more to mimic a laptop, give you more usability if you're using a tablet, so that you can do more business processing. To end off, I would think that the iPad is the de facto standard. Great choice for anybody to make. If you're an enterprise that already has BlackBerries, probably a good thing to kind of consider the possibility of the BlackBerry Playbook because of the integration capabilities and shared internet. And if you don't like that form factor and want more mobility and word processing and business usage, you might want to consider the Samsung Galaxy Tab. This has been a demonstration of tablet computing.